Um, so start from this week, and we will talk about chapter 10, ArrayList. Again, and I couldn't emphasize enough that you really, really need to know the content from chapter 1 all the way to 9, especially chapter 7. Okay? So here is the kind of questions. Suppose when we learn data structure here, we really mean to handle a lot of data or a lot of information. Okay. So for example, if you have a huge file, okay, you have a huge file and you want to have a program that reads this file and that can display each word of the file. Okay. Um, and then you want to capitalize all the pros. That means the word that ends in S, or you want to display them in reverse order, or you want to remove all the plurals in the word. Okay. So when we have tons and tons of data, the first thing come to our mind so far is, yeah, we need to use array. Then the question is, should we solve this problem using array? Why we should use an array and why not we should use the array? And here the book gave our basic solutions or preliminary solutions, like what we might think about is we say, okay, well, we need to store the words, so let's create an array of string, right? We have a string of array. Okay. And so how we create an array of string, and we say string square bracket, and then we give the name of the array called all words, and then equal new, and it's a string. And look here, when we create, look here, when we create an array, we have to tell computer how big the array is. You have to tell the computer how big the array is. Okay, so we need to tell the array, we need to tell the computer to say, hey, we want 1,000 words. Now, did you see the problem right here? To say, how do I know that file has 1,000 words or less? Right? If the file is very small and they only have 10 words in it, then we waste a lot of space. And if the file is big, it's more than 1,000 words, and then guess what? We don't have enough space for it. So we, as a programmer, it seems like always really have to change the code that will depend on, how big the file is. You see the issue here, right? So for an array, again, as I said, we have to predetermine how big the array is. If we give that too big, and we are wasting lots of space, and we're also slowing down the computation. But if we give too small, then we will run into out of space issue. Okay. And so what's the solution for it? The solution is we're using ArrayList. Okay. The Java they realize that we realize the problem. We realize this problem. We realize that we really need to create something that handles automatic increase the size of the array quickly when they need it behind the scene. So underneath the hood, we actually still use an array, okay, underneath the hood, but we create some classes that handles this for us automatically. So Java has a collections, or we can call data structure. And data structure in Java particularly, we have ArrayList, and that's what we're going to learn this chapter. And there is a linked list, we'll learn later. Hash map, we'll learn later. And tree set, we'll learn later. And priority queue later, we'll learn all those libraries. And it's because this high-level data structure will give us much more flexibility to handle the data and handle them very nicely, and also allow us to process the data very fast. All right. This is kind of the relationship among the different classes inside the collection framework. We'll go talk about this more later. So here is, if we understand what is inheritance, then we will know that interface, we have interface, the Java interface. The interface list is the one we will talk about starting from here. So this is interface. And ArrayList and linked list is implement the list, okay? And we also have an interface set and the hash set, tree set, which is the next chapter. It's implement set. And then we have a map, again, the hash map and tree map. It's implement the map interface here. Okay, so those four we'll talk about it next chapter, and this is even further down in the chapters. And this chapter will study the array list. So, what is the list in general? Okay, the list is an ordered sequence. So this is the keyword. It's actually ordered. Okay, they go just like array. They kind of have index to represent the position they are in, right? And the position index all start from 0. Okay, and this list has some of the common behaviors. For example, you should be able to add them from the beginning, from the end, from the middle, and you should be able to remove them, any one of them, and you should be able to know what is the size, what's the total element on the array. So if we say this is a list, then this is kind of like the common behaviors of a list. So the list can be empty, okay? So we, instead of using, the fixed size like an array, okay, and we actually have them kind of like array-ish things, and then we can have each of the element in here, and they separate by the comma here. Now, methods. right? And so for an array list, and we need to be able to add, okay, we can just add a value which will add them at the end of the list. Or we can add in a specific index. For example, you can insert, if you give me the index 0, that means I will insert this value just before the given index and shifting everything to the right. So if you give me this 0, it's actually inserted at the beginning of the array. And then we can remove every element from the list. And index of is that you can find, given a value, you want to see where this value first appears, okay? And if this value never showed up, then you return -1 to say, oh, I don't have this value in my list. So index of is a way to search for a value. And then we have a get and give an index. It will return the value at a given index. And remove index, it will remove and returns that value at the given index. And they will shift subsequent value to the left. And set, given an index and the value, it will change the value at certain index from their current value to the value we are given in these parameters. Okay. And remember, for array, we're using array.length for the total number of elements in the array. Now for ArrayList, we use the method called size, and then also size has to be followed by the parentheses, and that indicates the total number of elements in the array list. So we're using size. And then toStrings is a method that will print the whole element, whole array list, every element in the list, and follow, they add the square at the beginning and the square at the end. So those methods are very, very, very important, okay? And you should know all these methods and know how to use them by heart. All right, and there's more. For example, you can add all. You can see if it contains certain value, but we normally don't use contains. We're using index of, which is much more often used. And remove a value. It will find and remove. Sometimes we're using it too. And it will find and removes the given value from the list. Okay. And we can do some sublist too. Okay. And toArray is that we change all the elements in the list, and then we change them all and create an array to it. So underneath the array list, it's actually when we talk about how all those being implemented, and it's actually we are using array to implement it. So how we create an array list is we say array list, and then we're using this arrow to right now the pairs, the arrow pairs, and we give a type. Look, the type has a capital T here. That means this type is actually a class name. All right, you cannot put the int lowercase here. It has to be the capital integer class here. All right, so this type is capitalized. And then we give a name, again, equal new array list. Then again, we have the arrows for type followed by a parenthesis. And this is the example if we want to create an array of strings, so like names. And then this is the statement that we gave. So it's array list and arrow and put the string inside, and names is the array list name equal new array list. Again, give the type and followed by the parenthesis and semicolon. You notice that we didn't give any size here. You notice that we didn't give a size here because array list allow us to expand or shrink the size automatically. It seems like we don't have to handle it, you know. The array list, they handle it inside itself. So give us much more flexibilities here. Now, so let's compare array list versus the array here, right? How we create an array is we give a type and we have a square bracket and we give a name and then we say equal new and we give a size. So the names have exactly the size of 5. That means we can only store no more than 5 names. But if we're using array list here, and then you can have as many names as you want to, okay? They will expand it automatically. So the creation or declaration is different, okay? Again, notice that array is a capital A here, okay? Now, to store a value here, and so if we want to store the value Jessica into the first element, then we'll say names square bracket 0, and then give that Jessica's value into the array. But for array list, we're using a method called add. So we'll say list here now is an object. So we'll say list.add and followed by the parenthesis because this is a method call. And then we'll pass Jessica as a value to the list. And if we want to retrieving a value, then we can say, okay, I want to see what is the string in the first element. Then we can do that. But for array list, and we're using the method get. And we gave the index here. Okay. And what about retrieving? What about retrieving? For array, then we do the for loop here, right? And well, for the array list, it's very similar. We do the for loop, but again, see, instead of using length, and we actually call the method size followed by the parentheses. Okay? And every time when we want to access the element, we're using the method get. We're using the method get. Okay. All right. That's pretty much what I want to talk about it. Let me stop the recording here and ask you if you have any questions.